Hello everybody, welcome to the video explaining the possibilities of my PadKontrol software. The controller itself is quite fun to use, but the built-in features are not the best ones, I think. For example, if you hit one of the 16 pads, you realize that the pad only flashes up shortly, even though you might keep your fingers pressed upon it, which is kind of annoying. Fortunately, the PadKontrol, like most of Korg's MIDI controllers, offers a certain mode called native mode, which allows you to expand the functionality of the controller itself. That's what my software does, and in order to use the software you need to attach the PadKontrol to your PC via USB and install Korg's drivers. Afterwards you start the software and configure it like shown in the video and hit the button labeled native mode. You see that it successfully changed into native mode by the change of the display, which is showing just 3 dashes. The first change you will realize is that if you use one of the 16 pads, it stays lit as long as you keep your fingers pressed upon it. Furthermore, there are 4 certain special modes, and you reach those modes by hitting the 4 buttons left to the 16 pads. The first mode is the toggle mode, and you reach it by pressing and holding down the scene button. You see that you are in toggle mode by the display changing to TGL, which is of course short for toggle. The next mode is the CN1 and CN2 mode, which is short for connection mode, and the last one is the so-called feedback mode. We'll talk about this one later on. The pads by default are configured in flash mode, which means a pad is lit as long as you press it and is unlit upon release. When you press it, a MIDI on signal is sent, and when you release it, a MIDI off signal is sent. If you want to change the behavior of a pad to be toggled, then you hit the button for toggle mode and keep it pressed. Afterwards you select those pads that you want to use as toggled. In this example I select the first 8 pads to be toggled, and what happens can be seen quite easily. You can hit the buttons for the different modes at any time to see what pads are configured in which modes, or to change the configuration of certain pads on the fly. Same goes with unconfiguring the toggle mode. Those pads are now in flash mode again. Next one is the CN1 mode, which is, as I already said, short for connection mode 1 or interconnection mode, anything like that. And this mode is kind of a mixture between flash mode and toggle mode. I just show in the video. So the first 4 pads are configured in the CN1 mode, and when I hit one pad it is switched on, and if I hit another pad or another one of those pads which are configured in the same mode, the newly hit pad is lit and the pad which was lit before is unlit. The same goes with MIDI data, so the pad which goes lit sends a MIDI on and the pad which is unlit sends a MIDI off. This is one extremely useful mode if you, for example, use this software in conjunction with Ableton and want to switch a track into solo mode or anything like that. There are 2 connection modes which allow you to configure a number of pads independent from each other. So you see I got 2 rows of pads configured in connection mode, and I guess it's easy to see what happens here. You probably realize that since we switched the PadKontrol into native mode, the roll button is lit. This is due to the fact that the software implements 3 banks of pads, so you don't have just 16 but 48 pads for instant access. The roll button being lit shows that the first bank of pads is activated, and by hitting the flam or the hold button you can activate the second or the third bank just if you want to. Cool thing is that you can configure the modes shown before, like the toggle mode, independently from the banks, so each bank has its own toggle, CN1, CN2 and feedback mode. See, like I can switch on the pads on the first bank, switch on the other pads on the second bank, and switch on another set of pads on the third bank and move in between just like I want to. This picture shows which MIDI node is sent by which pad in relation to the activated bank.